Imagine if I told you that almost everything you've ever tried to learn failed, not because you're slow, not because you lack talent, but because you were using the wrong method. Think about it. You read a book, you watch a video, you feel confident for a moment, and then a few days later, it's gone. That frustration you feel right now, that feeling of why can't I remember anything, is exactly what one of the greatest minds in history obsessed over. His name was Richard Feynman. He wasn't just a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, he was a master learner. And today I'm going to share the exact technique he used to learn anything faster, deeper, and more permanently than almost anyone else. By the end of this video, you'll never study, learn, or even watch educational content the same way again. Before we dive in, if you enjoy learning how the world works in a simple, powerful way, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. And it tells YouTube that content like this from Think in Physics is worth sharing with more curious minds like yours. Now let's get into it. Richard Feynman had a very simple belief. He believed that if you can't explain something in simple words, you don't really understand it. Not a little, not partially. You don't understand it at all. And this idea became the foundation of what we now call the Feynman Technique. What makes this method so powerful is that it doesn't rely on motivation, discipline, or intelligence. It relies on honesty, brutal honesty with yourself. Most people confuse familiarity with understanding. You read a chapter, the words look familiar, the diagrams seem recognizable, and your brain says, yeah, I get this. But that's an illusion. Feynman hated that illusion. He wanted real understanding, the kind that stays with you even if the book disappears. The first step of the Feynman technique is choosing a concept you want to learn. Not 10 concepts, not an entire subject, just one idea, one clear topic. It could be something simple like gravity, or something complex like machine learning, or even a life skill like investing. The mistake most people make is trying to learn too much at once. Feynman would focus on one idea until it became crystal clear. Once you've chosen the concept, here's where the real work begins. You pretend you are teaching it to someone who knows absolutely nothing about it. Imagine explaining it to a child. Or even better, imagine explaining it out loud, using your own voice. This is why this technique works beautifully with voiceover practice, just like what we do here on Think in Physics. When you try to teach something, your brain is forced to organize ideas, not just recognize them. As you explain, something interesting happens. You start to hesitate, you pause. You say things like, basically, or it's kind of like. These moments are gold. These are the exact points where your understanding is weak. Most people ignore these gaps. Feynman attacked them. Whenever you get stuck, you stop and go back to the source. Not to reread everything, but to fix that specific gap. Then you try explaining again over and over. Each time, your explanation becomes cleaner, shorter, and more natural. Now here's the part that most people skip, and this is why they never truly learn. Simplification. Feynman would remove all fancy words, all technical jargon, all unnecessary complexity. If a word feels impressive but unclear, it doesn't belong. Simplicity is not dumbing down. Simplicity is clarity. Think about this. If you can explain electricity without using complicated formulas, you understand it. If you can explain it so clearly that a teenager gets it, you really understand it. And if you can't, that's not a failure. That's feedback. This method is uncomfortable. And that's why it works. Your brain prefers passive learning because it feels safe. Watching videos, highlighting text, rereading notes feels productive, but it rarely builds deep understanding. The Feynman technique forces active thinking. It exposes confusion instantly. Feynman himself used this method throughout his life. He wasn't known as the smartest man in the room because he memorized more. He was known because he could explain the hardest ideas in the simplest way. People would walk into his lectures confused and walk out thinking, wait, that actually makes sense. And here's something powerful. This technique doesn't just help you learn faster, it builds confidence. When you truly understand something, fear disappears. Exams become easier, conversations become smoother, teaching others becomes enjoyable. Let's talk about how you can use this in daily life. Suppose you're learning from a YouTube video. Don't just watch it, pause it. Explain what you just heard out loud in your own words. If you can't, rewind and fix the gap. If you're reading a book, close it and explain the page from memory. This one habit can multiply your learning speed. Another powerful variation is writing. Take a blank page and write as if you're teaching a beginner. No copying, no looking. Just explaining. You'll quickly see where your thinking breaks down. That's where real learning happens. At Think in Physics, the entire philosophy of content is inspired by this idea. Complex ideas made simple, not shallow but clear. And you can apply the same mindset to anything you want to master. Now let's be honest for a moment. This technique takes effort. It's slower at first. You might feel frustrated, but that frustration is growth. Think of it like going to the gym. Muscles grow when they're stressed. Your brain is no different. One of the biggest benefits of the Feynman technique is long-term retention. You're not memorizing facts. You're building mental models. That's why weeks later, months later, the knowledge is still there. There's also a hidden bonus. When you explain things simply, people listen. Whether you're a student, a professional, or a creator, this skill sets you apart. Clarity is rare and clarity is valuable. As we get closer to the end, I want you to try something today. Pick one concept you struggle with. Just one. Use this technique. Explain it out loud. Find the gaps, fix them. Simplify, repeat. Do this for just 20 minutes and notice how different learning feels. If this idea helped you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what topic you're going to use the Feynman technique on first. And if you think this video could help a friend who struggles with learning or studying, share it with them. You never know how much impact one simple idea can have. And remember, learning isn't about being smart. It's about being clear. That's the Feynman way.